Hey everybody, today I'd like to welcome you to the video and invite you to like and subscribe. Today we're going to compare the teachings of Ramana Maharshi to the mystical Christian practice of actually how to set up the Christian yoke, how to find and enter into the straight gate, and is this or is this not one and the same thing? I think you'll be amazed. But basically, the idea is in mysticism, there's the word that's used of I, as in I am, or come follow me. Basically, it marks the place at the heart where the kingdom of God within you can be found. And so in the Sri Ramana Maharshi's tradition, he recommends following the I thought to its source. The I is like a placeholder, and if you try to trace the I thought by asking the question, by self-inquiry, like saying, who am I? Who am I? And you try to find that I thought, the I becomes elusive, but and that by doing that you reach the goal of life. But the Christian way is a bit different. At least externally it seems different, but it's really the same thing, because of that statement that says, where two or more gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. So you use the frame of the human body as an actual tool to gather a point on one side and a point on the other, and then simply don't lean. And the world around you will continually present itself to you, parading up in ever new ways, ways which from one moment to the next have never ever occurred as they are presenting. It's always new. But in the midst of all that newness, there's a place that, using the frame of the body in this way, a place that can be served, a place that can be held to. And that is done by not leaning. There's the principle called aversion, in which you lean away from things you don't like commonly, or affinity, in which you lean toward things that you do like. And if you succumb to either, then you basically are perceiving that there's something in the outer world that is something that you need, and therefore you go outward pursuing it in some external distant location. So the thing is, in the Christian way, you don't have to figure anything out. You can take no thought for the morrow, because if you can set up this kind of a scale and abide as balanced in the midst of a changing world, in the place of the heart, and leaning not unto your own understanding, there's one that surfs. Who is that one? You could say, I am the one that surfs that. So the one that surfs is sitting in the midst of all the changes of the world. But the sense of the one that is surfing it, it's not a strong ego sense, it's simply locational. So it's almost like if there's a fire and you want to roast something over the fire, right? You could set up a couple of sticks on each side, which is the equivalent of gathering two or more in my name. And then you could suspend over the top the very center point. And then simply observe for any turning away, any leaning, and then just follow this concept of trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. And then the question that's often asked, mystically, lovest thou me more than these? So what happens is all these invitations parade up, life with all its subtlety and varieties and new combinations all the time, man. And the sport of life is that in the middle of all of this, to be steady, and that steadiness is as an offering to the place that is ever pristine, ever spotless, and that does not miss the mark. And when you first start out, does it seem like you're in the middle? Well, perhaps, because somebody's doing the surfing of this place. Somebody is abiding in the middle of it. But when you practice in this way, you don't think of yourself so much as an ego. No, you're just looking, and because you're looking to surf it, whatever there is in the middle, any ego or whatever, that also, as a thing, is going to be surfed. And the one that, the eternal witness, is the one that remains when all the ups and the downs, the comings and the goings, and all the modifications of life have presented themselves in invitation before this place, and where you have steadily said, answered the question, lovest thou me more than these? And you said, no, I do not love these more than me. And so you end up being the one in the midst of a changing world, in the middle of all this change. So in a similar way, you could say it's locational, because Sri Ramana Maharshi, the whole idea of tracing the I thought to its origin, and asking the question, who am I, and finding where that place is, that's locational in a way. And similarly with this, when you surf, when you set up this mystical cross, and you take your cross upon you, well, Jesus said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For behold, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And then each is supposed to take up their cross and follow me. So me is the word that's used in a lot of traditions to indicate the place, the dwelling place of the kingdom of God within you. Not low here or low there, as Jesus said, but within you. And it is a place that is pristine and ever untouched. It's the place that on a bullseye would not miss the mark. Because for any given consideration, it is exactly spot on, exactly right. So, for example, if you just consider this idea of setting up the scale in this way by sampling a point on one side of the body, a point on the other, and then just abiding in the midst of them, you'll find that there's a place between the opposites of right and left. A place, and think of this, how straight and narrow would this place be? The place between right and left. It is the place that is least in the kingdom of God. It is just, so it's not to the right, not to the left, but how thin is the place between those opposites? That's the place where you simply abide and surf. And it's not only the opposites of right and left, but it's the opposites of any given consideration. You can use the one of right and left as a starting place, but similar, so would be vertical axis of the cross. It could be, as an example. But similarly, there's the horizontal axis of the cross. This could represent in life something that's too high or too low, something that's too much or too little. But between those opposites is a place for any given consideration that doesn't miss the mark, that's just exactly right. And you can see that this is reminiscent of a cross. And that if you take up this kind of a cross, you can indeed follow me. And this is like the straight gate, the straight and narrow way, that you are supposed to enter into the straight gate. How can you enter into it if you don't have some kind of, if you don't know how to use the frame of the human body as a tool, if you don't know how to set up this kind of a yoke? Because if you can surf this place between opposites, the very instant that you start to depart off, you will know it, and you can bring it back, and you can abide in this place. So you might ask, well, how's that even done? Well, I'll just give you a very simple example. As you sit there's a place where you meet the chair, right? You've got sitting bones that you sit on, just for this example. So you can feel the one on the right. If you lean to the left, you can feel the one on the left. So it's possible to feel one at a time, but it's also possible to feel them evenly, right? Feeling them evenly, you're camping out in the middle. And then the world is going to change around you, and not even knowing, not even taking thought for the morrow. You will lean in response to life's ever-new presentation. But the thing is, with this kind of a scale, it doesn't even matter the nature of the thing that's inviting the lean. You can simply choose this place and hold to it, and correct it in real time, if you know how to set up this kind of a scale. But see, this is similar to Ramana Maharshi. He says, trace the I thought to its origin, and this you choose a point, one or more, and then you know what is in the midst of them, and it is this place of the kingdom of God, the treasure that's in the heart. So it's just another way of doing it. It's like, are there more than one way to skin a cat? Yeah. But when you practice in this way, you will find that your mind is still. It's really steady. And I've used this example before to explain it, but imagine, so if Jesus appeared right in front of you, right? He was simply right there. And you also are simply right there facing Jesus flat on, right? Well, if you started to go this way, you would sense it immediately that you weren't flat on anymore. And so you would know exactly how much to bring it back, and you would know exactly when you had returned to the exact right place. So the mind it's on, but it's not on moving and churning and turning. No, it's simply observing this place and holding to and choosing this one good thing. And that's because when you set up this kind of a scale, it's actually instructive. It's actually informative. Why would I say that? Well, because when you turn this way, you sense it immediately, or as early as possible, and then you know exactly how much to bring it back. So it's not guesswork anymore, like, am I on track or am I not? If you don't know how to set up this kind of a scale, it's common to get kicked around in the turbulence of life. I mean, life is like being on a bucking bronco. Sometimes it seems like that. But that's because a lot of times you don't have a reference point. And this will give you. If you learn how to use the frame of the human body in this way, you can learn how to set up this mystic scale as balanced, and then it becomes almost a sport that the world is going to continue to present itself to you in all these ever new ways almost like the ocean is going to come up with a whole variety of waves, and you actually look forward to it. You want to see what the ocean can throw you so that you can try surfing that wave and then that one and another one. But in the middle of it, similarly, you are practicing this thing, which I like to call how to mystically surf or skateboard without a board. It really is similar because a surfer has their 2 points, and those 2 points match their feet. 1 foot on one side of the board, one on the other, and between the two, they sink their center of gravity down. And there's nothing, it's no mystery as to what they're going to do out there. They seek balance in the midst of a changing world. And that can make that moment so interesting, so fascinating, and such an interesting sport. And similarly in life, if you learn how to set up this kind of a scale, then you can be in the middle of perhaps even the most boring circumstances, things that you'd normally just be so bored you think, this is BS, man. But you can set up the scale, you can select the 2 points, and then having selected or sampled or gathered those 2 or more points, then know what is in the midst of them and actively surf and hold to this place and be spot on in the middle of life, man. If you're balanced, you're free, because from this place of balance you can go to the front, the back, the left, or the right, any direction. You're spot on, man. So this is a really cool way to practice, and if you want to learn more about it, I wrote an article called How to Mystically Surf or Skateboard Without a Board, and I have a video on it too on this channel. And so please like and subscribe, and really you can choose whatever way you want. You can choose to trace the I thought back to its source, or you can choose to set up this kind of a scale, because who surfs? The one that is, I surf. The one that, that's the answer, I surf. And I is not different than the placeholder of the ego. It's no different than that which, when you trace back through Ramana Maharshi's method, the place that the place of the heart. It's just that you set up, you just literally abide in that place in stillness if you use this method. So it is an amazing tool. Much love, and thanks for liking and subscribing. If you want to support my channel, then please look below. Thank you. Much love.